Hi, it's Mike with Matawan Works, back again with a new video. I hope you enjoy. I'm going to try this while I'm driving. I'm in the old 7.3. I'm going to try and speak up so you can hear me, because this thing's pretty loud, as diesels usually are. So I had been mentioning previously that I was going to talk about what was seeding and the seeding season, so to speak, right? So I'm gonna start from the beginning, which is spring. Okay, so spring, the conditions are right for seeding. Okay, you have rain, the days are getting warmer, the seed germinates, you have a prolonged period of rain, naturally occurring rain, the grass develops roots, it establishes itself, it grows, and then it has to face the summer. So the heat, the drought, the roots are not developed enough to survive that kind of an onslaught. So a lot of times whatever progress you gain in the spring, you lose in the summer, because you're already losing established grass in your lawn in the summer. So why would the barely establishing new grass survive what was there from last year couldn't? So that's what happens. That's why I typically don't seed in the spring, unless it's a soil stabilization type thing, in which case I use annual ryegrass. It doesn't come back every year, but it grows very quickly and establishes, and it ties down the soil so that you don't have erosion. It also, it's a very tough plant, and it will survive the summer relatively well, buying you time to get everything established so that when you get to the fall, which is the proper seeding season, you get the best results. Okay. Another thing that happens in the spring is, as the days get warmer and the day goes on, and the months go on, you have weed competition, which is a problem in and of itself. And then on top of that, then you have products to control the weeds. They actually affect the growth of the grass as well. Now, grass is not immune to the chemicals used on lawns to kill the weeds. It's just strong enough to survive it. So when you think about it that way, you understand a baby grass plant will not survive the chemical applications to kill dandelions and etc. So 2,4-D or whatever they're using, or variation of that they're using, has instructions on the back of it saying do not apply on grass till it is X amount of months old, or X amount of weeks old. So there's actually, it's written in the label that they should not apply it on new grass. But again, then you have to choose. Do you have the weeds, and then the weeds go to seed, they propagate, they spread, they take over your lawn, or do you fight the weeds and essentially kill some of your own troops in the process? Another thing is also crabgrass preventer. Crabgrass preventer actually prevents grass seed from germinating as well. So now you've got the chemicals working against you, and then you've got the summer working against you. And then we're going to follow up with the last one, which is then the onslaught of weeds. So if you do provide an environment free of the chemicals so that the new grass seed can establish, then you're going to be faced with the problem of having crabgrass crowd out your lawn, because crabgrass will not only fill in the voids that the grass seed didn't, it will actually start to consume and destroy as it takes over your lawn. So again, that's spring for you. It's very tough. It's only as needed that I would seed in the spring. They do have, some companies do spot seeding in the spring. You're almost better off letting whatever lawn you have try and creep into those voids. The success rate, I mean, it'll work for a while, and that's fine, I suppose. Just understand that whatever you do spot seeding wise, it will be a benefit for you for a few months at the best, and then after that, you're going to be facing the same problems. So going on from there, obviously summer is summer. Again, summer I see as a necessity. Again, annual ryegrass, just because conditions are so brutal that's probably the only thing that'll grow. Now, I have customers that seed in the summer, dead of summer, and they have a lot of time. They have a lot of time and patience. They're retired. They'll go there and they'll spot water the lawn. They'll spot water the lawn, and then they'll have very good success. Unfortunately, a few weeks later, they cut back on the watering, and the grass dies. But then you also have another factor in the summer, which is fungus. So damp conditions create fungus in the summer with the heat, the moisture, the humidity. So now you have potentially creating a breeding ground for fungus. Summer patch or dollar spot or whatever. There's a bunch. I'm not an expert on the funguses, but I do know that if I water in the middle of the summer with the heat and the humidity, I'm probably going to generate fungus. And then that will not only kill the seed that you put down, but that will also kill the existing lawn. So again, another thing to think about, And as a contractor, I don't want to miss. I want to come in and I want to knock it out of the park on my first go around. So for that reason, I always push seeding, anything that is seed related, to the fall. And why do we do the fall? Here's the important part of it. The important part of it is A, temperatures will start going down. B, yes, the weeds are already established. You've already done your crabgrass preventer. That's already done its due diligence. It's run its course. It's actually no longer active in the soil by September. It's done. And yes, you still have crabgrass, and your grass is still going to compete with the crabgrass. But as you seed and you water and your lawn starts to take over, it starts to take a foothold, crabgrass is going downhill because we're getting shorter days, cooler temperatures. I mean, crabgrass wants it. It likes it hot. It likes it hot. It wants to be in a heat wave all the time. Turn this off. It wants to be in a heat wave all the time. So it's gonna fight you. Even in September and October, it's gonna fight you. But what's gonna happen is, as the temperatures get cooler, crabgrass is gonna grow slower. The sun's gonna get lower in the sky. Crabgrass wants full sun. So you're fighting a battle where your opponent is retreating, and every time he retreats, you gain ground. So every time the crabgrass doesn't grow or gets mowed or cut back, it creates that window for the seed that you put in the week before to germinate in that spot. And then we get the first frost, and it doesn't have to be a big frost, doesn't have to be a hard frost, it just has to be a baby frost, and crabgrass is done for the year. And then you have carte blanche for your lawn to grow, develop deep roots, and once it has those deeper roots, it'll be able to survive the winter. Now, it'll be easier for new grass to survive the winter than it is for new grass to survive the summer. So then in the spring, all the gains you made in the fall are going to be right there under the surface, waiting to come out and do what it does. And then your lawn is going to look 1,000 times better. So usually, if we're seeding, it usually takes about a year from beginning to end for your lawn to really look nice. Now, since everything's already grown in, you can come in with your chemicals, do your pre-emergent, do your broadleaf applications, and your grass will be able to survive that because it is now well-established lawn. So that's the crux of it. Lower temperatures in the fall, more moisture, more water. The only thing you could think of that I need to point out with the fall is now you want to get your grass established before the leaves really start coming down. And around here, that's really like the first week of November is when the leaves are really coming down. And the reason for that is because as you blow those leaves out, they don't come, they just don't, sometimes they do fly off easily, but a lot of times you have to finesse them, and you gotta shake the grass loose, and then the leaves shake loose and then they blow off. But you're also blowing off some of that seed. You're blowing off some of that barely established grass that barely has any roots. So you want at least 3 weeks between when your grass is seeded to when you start blowing your lawn vigorously. So again, so that's like, let's say like if you really wanted to lay off that first week in November, you could probably get away with it too. So really, the second week in November, that would be the third week. So then you go back. That would be the first to second week in October would be the last time you can seed at that point, and still be able to, the second week in October, be able to give the grass time enough to germinate, establish some roots, and then put up with a cleanup. Because on top of that, then a week after that, then we're, pretty much the middle to the end of November. That's Thanksgiving territory. Everybody's out there raking and blowing and raking and blowing, and it's like, if you think blowing off your leaves is going to be detrimental to your grass, imagine raking. Like even as it is, we rake up parts of somebody's grass when we're out there doing the cleanup for the fall, for the Thanksgiving rush. It's all coming out. So you want to give it time to establish. And also, you got to keep in mind, different grass seeds germinate at different rates. Your dry rye will germinate probably the fastest. In 2 weeks, it'll start coming up. 3 weeks, it'll be peach fuzz. 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks, probably 5 weeks, you'll be mowing it. And then from there, you get your tall fescues. Tall fescue, I think, is like 3 weeks. And then your bluegrass is almost 4 weeks. So if you're doing a bluegrass lawn, then you probably, the beginning of October is probably the latest you want to put that down. And give it a full month to come up and get established. Not to mention, bluegrass seed is about half the size of the other typical seeds, the other grass seed, and then you end up using more of it because it just falls through the spreader faster, even if you adjust and calibrate it, just because it's a smaller seed. Any minute indiscrepancy in the adjustment, and it just flushes out of that thing, and then you end up having to use more seed to cover the same area. So that's my tip there for the fall seeding. That's why we do fall. That is the purpose of it. And I know a lot of people ask me all the time, like in the springs, like, oh, hey, I want to seed my lawn. I don't really think I'll do it. But people need to understand that there's limits. You're dealing with nature. Things grow when they grow. You don't see a farmer putting corn out in January, or February. There's nobody planting corn in February. It doesn't work. So you gotta keep in mind that this is a crop. This is a living thing. It's a field, a forest of individual grass plants. And once you think about it that way, you understand that this is a living thing, and it's not just up to us to what we want out of it. We have to give it what it needs to become what we want. So that's it for this video. I hope it's helpful. I hope it educates people and gives you an idea, an insight. Once again, this is Mike from Mab Landworks. Thank you for watching. See you next time.